Gamers, it's time to pull out those gacha wallets, and I'm not talking about your IRL ones because you're already doing that for Mommy Acheron. I'm talking about your gacha wallet in terms of XP, credits, and everything like that to level up these two things. One underrated Lightcone, one underrated character that is severely going to push Acheron into the stratosphere. And this is going to be great for not only free-to-play players, but also players that just might have this stuff on their accounts, this character on their account, this Lightcone on their account, because not only does it help Acheron, it helps a plethora of things, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So go ahead and open your inventories up, get those credits, get those XP books, get those trace mats, and get ready to upgrade these two things here today. And don't let the homeless person in your closet steal it, okay? You guys, I'm actually the homeless person in your closet because I can't afford Acheron. Please watch this video, give a like and subscribe so I can maybe get an Acheron on my account. I would much appreciate that. Please, I beg. Anyways, guys, let's go ahead and talk about our Lightcone trends of Universal Market and our character, Miss Guinaifen. Now, you guys might think, trends of Universal Market, this thing is trash. What is this gonna do right here? This little stinky dot. Ooh, it gives a dot and increases defense? That's cringe. And you know what? Before Kafka came out, sure, you know, I've been touting this thing up personally since the dot set came out. This thing's been golden, okay? And while you guys have been shitting on it, I've been using it to my pleasure, especially with my Kafka teams. It can be used on doctor ratio teams. It became even more valuable, and it's becoming, it's peak value now, okay? It's like AI, right? It's never gonna get worse from this point on, okay? It's hit a new peak value with Acheron coming out, and let's talk about why, right? So as we know what this Lightcone does, it's going to be increasing the defense of a preservation unit. On top of that, if this preservation unit gets hit, it's going to be putting a fire dot on the enemy, or has a chance to anyways. And the great thing about this is you really don't even need this thing high eidolon. Like, realistically, we do not care about how much dot this does. It's the biggest fact here is that it applies a debuff. And if we were running this on someone like a Gepard, where if you have some effect hit rate in his kit, this thing's practically always gonna proc off. You're running it on someone like Fire MC, it's going to be even better for you. So let's go ahead and talk about why it's good on each of these teams we're talking about today, and some use case scenarios for this Lightcone, and then we'll talk about Guinaifen and her greatness after this. So first of all, let's talk about where it all started at, Miss Kafka, okay? So when Miss Kafka came out, there were not many dot units in the game. Really the only dot unit we had in the game when Miss Kafka came out. I'm not sure when Guinaifen came out. I think Guinaifen came out after, yeah. Guinaifen came out after Kafka, so there wasn't really much use case for dot teams, right? And everyone called Kafka trash because, oh, she can only be used on a team with Swan and Katsuki Sampo. And yeah, that was the case. You could really only use her on a team with Serval and Katsuki Sampo, but you could also put Trends of Universal Market on your tank, and what that would do is allow you to hit a fire dot on the enemy, which means you're able to reproc that dot and get a little bit more damage. All right, there was some use to it before. Where this got even more used at, or more useful at, is whenever the dot set came out, because the dot set scales off of how many dots that are currently on the enemy. You have 3 dots, you get a 21 whatever % defense shred, right? And with Kafka being on the team, with Sampo being on the team, this was like 2 dots, right? If you break an enemy shield, then you get another dot. But this right here allowed you to run solo Kafka on a team, get a break from Kafka, get skill from Kafka, and then your whatever gets hit, right? Your preservation unit on the team gets hit, right? Let's say you're not running Hua on the team. I didn't have Hua on my team, right? I would run a Swan, I would run a Gepard, I would run this Lightcone, then I would get the maximum defense shred that I needed for her, right? Or even when I ran my Kafka with someone like Topaz, right? I could put this on my tank as well, and then still get the max proc off from my Kafka. Now, of course, we're relying on a shield break, but this is a guaranteed 3rd dot that you're able to get on the enemies, which allows you to unlock the full defense shred of this kit. So this is where I started using it. I thought it was okay before. Like, it was when the game came out. It was when Kafka came out. Then it was when Kafka got the new dot set, and then it became when Dr. Ratio came out. We're gonna get into Black Swan in a second here. Don't think I forgot about her. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Dr. Ratio, because how does Dr. Ratio play? Because obviously, Mr. Dr. Ratio here plays off of how many debuffs that are currently on the enemy. If you're running him with a tank unit like a Swan to give him extra crit rate, because trust me, he needs that shit. This right here will come in so much clutch because it allows you to get a free debuff on the enemy yet again, meaning he has higher uptime on his buff, or his crit rate. Crit damage buff is guaranteed, right? But I'm talking about the damage buff from having a certain amount of debuffs on the enemies, and then also getting guaranteed follow-up attacks, so this was really good for that as well, right? Because generally, him himself, if you're running him on the team, he gives one debuff. You'd probably run another debuff on the team, or maybe even a Topaz on the team with her signature light cone, or just Topaz on the team, that's 2 debuffs. By running this light cone, you can basically guarantee at least 3 debuffs, and get that 30% guaranteed every single time. Of course, there's other light cones you can add that on top of this, but this light cone is super good for debuff-oriented teams, and that's why it was so good on a Dr. Ratio team. This is where I took this light cone to S5. I put it on my Swan, and I never looked back on Dr. Ratio teams with that. And then we got Miss Black Swan of the game. And how does Miss Black Swan's signature light cone play? It plays off the amount of debuffs on the enemy, right? Also, her kit plays off of having different debuffs on the enemy as well. Of course, her ult turns her Arcana stacks into all 4. But this would allow you to get more defense shred before actually having to proc and ult off with her. And also, say if you were to have the signature light cone for Black Swan put on someone else, this would also help out in those scenarios as well. But the ability to put different types of dots, different types of debuffs on the enemy and just stack them up with more debuffs really all comes to fruition with Miss Acheron, because Miss Acheron plays with debuff applications. And the reason why this is so strong is because every time an enemy hits your tank, given that the effect hit rate doesn't fail and you give the guaranteed debuff to them, you will get a debuff proc every single time your enemy is hit or your ally is hit, right? So you're not having to rely on enemies exploding. You're not even having to rely on skill points. This is basically a free skill for your team. Think of it like this, right? You run a Japar on the team, right? Sure, he has a freeze with his skill attack, but maybe you're running Acheron on a team and the SP is not efficient, right? But if he's getting hit every single time, you're basically just using his skill for free, right? Because you're getting debuffs every single time on the enemies. Now let's hop into an even better scenario, Fire MC. The reason why this is so good with Fire MC here with an Acheron team, and why I think Acheron can be pretty free-to-play friendly, is because of the fact you can use Taunt, which debuffs the enemies, so that's one debuff. Then all the enemies are guaranteed to attack her. This meaning that every single time the enemy attacks you, you're getting more procs of fire on the enemy, which means say you're facing 3 enemies, right? You can get a taunt. All 3 enemies attack your Fire MC. You've gotten 4 free stacks from your Fire MC. Your Fire MC is putting more work in than Acheron's signature light cone, okay? This is super clutch for Acheron right now. I wouldn't recommend not running a preservation on the team with Acheron. You will just supercharge her ult so fast. This is a great light cone. I think you should level it up, but I'm done blabbering about that. Let's go ahead and talk about Miss Guinaifen now. Now, guys, I've already made a Guinaifen build guide on the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Go check out the build guide. It's one of my most viewed videos on my channel because people like Guinaifen a lot, though she is still underrated. Probably wouldn't put her low in the tier list, and I understand why they do, right? Guinaifen is not a heavy hitter. She is not like a main DP, like her damage is okay, right? But in terms of value, she is one of the most valuable characters in the game. And I've been waiting to make this video on this because she just brings so much value to your account, and her stonks as well as trends keep going up. Actually, hers go higher because she's a whole ass character you can use, right? So the reason why she is so good, right? I'm not going to go through the whole team breakdowns. We know she can be used on just about every team. She can be used as a sub DPS. The reason why she's so good is because you can proc a debuff off from her basic attack. She can proc debuffs off with her skill. She can proc debuffs off when the enemy gets burned. You can re-proc them whenever she uses her ultimate move. She just has so many different ways of getting debuffs on the enemy, right? And mainly, right, I think she's better for a Doctor Ratio than she would be for an Acheron. I will say that, just because of the fact whenever Fire Burn procs and you get Fire Kiss on the enemies, it doesn't apply to reapplying on Acheron, right? Not to say it's not good, because her ultimate still does proc, her basic still does proc, and then her skill also procs as well. So it makes her more SP efficient, so this is just really good all around. But for Doctor Ratio, right, she's able to put at E0 2 debuffs guaranteed on the enemy at all times. If you run her with Resolute Shine's Pearls of Sweat, you can get 3 debuffs guaranteed. And for the low price of E1, which, come on guys, if you're summoning on a banner, you've probably gotten her E1 somewhere if you've been playing the game for a number of months now, right? Her E1 allows you to get another debuff with her skill. So that is minimum 4 debuffs. For Doctor Ratio, that is absolutely insane. Like, if you don't understand how insane that is, with Doctor Ratio on the team, you're getting 4 debuffs with her running Resolute Shines. He gives 1 debuff himself. He could technically give 2 if you do the statue and you kill fast enough, right? So that means you have full 6 debuffs at all times using just Doctor Ratio and Guinaifen on the same same team. Not to mention, she is making you do increased damage as well. So she's acting as a support, and also she's an okay sub DPS, right? I'm not gonna sit here and say she's the best sub DPS. You're gonna be breaking with Dr. Ratio most of the time, so you're not really gonna be focusing on her breaking. But another scenario she's good in is dot teams. Yes, dot teams, because she reprocs dot, which makes her amazing for Black Swan, because this will increase Black Swan stonks even more. So let's say you run Kafka, Black Swan, and Guinaifen on the same team. This is a good team. This is a banger team. You can get her Arcana stacks up, them being Black Swans. Arcana stacks up really, really quick with Guinaifen being on the team. And overall, she slaps. She's also can be used, obviously, as a fire sub DPS, though I would probably recommend Asta in that slot over Guinaifen. But she's not bad there either. And she's only growing with the time, right? As we see more of these Inhility units playing off other Inhility units, right? This just makes her so much better. Having Guinaifen on a team with Acheron, not only does it bring adding debuffs to Acheron, right, or getting her ult up faster, it also gives her a damage bonus as well. You can run Guinaifen on Acheron on the same team together without a Pela even, and she's practically giving you like a huge buff, right? If you run Pela on the team, it's a 60% buff. It's huge. It's massive. And that's why I like Guinaifen so much, and that's why I like Trends of Universal Market so much. And if you do too, drop a like on this video, because I love both these Lightcones. Let me know what your thoughts are on both of these in the comment section down below. Are you already using them? Do you like these Lightcones? Anyways, I'm gonna pussy far on out now. Guys, please, I need you to sub and like the video because I need Acheron. Please, God, I'm down bad.